First of all, thank you for joining this Abhidhamma online class. And it's very inspiring that so many people all over the world are interested in this higher teaching. It has been a long time I didn't teach Abhidhamma fully, but I teach partially here and there in Canada, in USA, in somewhere else. But I really don't have opportunity to finish completely the whole book. So today is my great opportunity that I can share online, and hopefully I can teach the whole content of the books. And I'm sure you will be benefited, because through many years of teaching, I know, how beneficial and important for a practitioner or the Buddhist to understand the working of the mind. And Suki Hontu, I'm going to start the class. And before I start the class, I hope, humble request that you can listen attentively, because this is Abhidhamma. It's not ordinary Dhamma. It's very complicated, and you need a very receptive mind. However, don't be afraid. I will make this class very, easy to understand and also beneficial for you. Okay? Okay. So now I'm going to share my PowerPoint with you. As we know, the teaching of the Buddha consists of Tipitaka. We've got 3 collections of the Dhamma. And number 1 is Sutta Pitaka, number 2, Vinaya Pitaka, and number 3, Abhidhamma Pitaka. So these 3 Pitaka is called Tipitaka. T is 3. Then for Sutta Pitaka is all the discourses given by Buddha and his disciples in certain occasions to certain audience, monks and nuns or layperson. And Vinaya Pitaka is about, monastics rules that laid down for monks and nuns to follow. And Abhidhamma Pitaka is completely another style of the book. I will explain later. And in the first council, we only have Vinaya Pitaka and Sutta Pitaka. It's not Abhidhamma Pitaka yet. However, there was a monk Mahathera, who are very proficient in Abhidhamma, said that Abhidhamma is under Khuddaka Nikaya, is under Sutta Pitaka, under Khuddaka Nikaya in the first council. Maybe it's very small amount. But in the third council, then we have this 3 Pitaka. So in the first council and the second council is 100 years later, after Buddha's Parinibbana, then only got Sutta Pitaka and Vinaya Pitaka. But in the 200 later, then the third council, we start to have Tipitaka, including Abhidhamma Pitaka. So this, therefore, many people say that Abhidhamma Pitaka is not the teaching of the Buddha because it does not appear in the first council. However, it is originated. No one will, if you understand the teaching of the Buddha and the teaching of the Abhidhamma, many of the accents, important points are originated from the sutta. As I go on, you may see it, okay? And Abhidhamma there are 7 books of Abhidhamma. For example, Dhamma Sankani, Vibhanga, Dhatu Kata, Katawutu, Pukala Panyati, Yamaka, and Patana. So there are 7 books. However, what we are going to study today is the summary of the 7 books. We call the Abhidhamma Tha Sangaha. Abhidhamma is one word, Atha. Atha means things. Things. So Abhidhamma Sangaha means a compendium, a comprehensive compendium. So the Abhidhamma Tha Sangaha means a compendium of things contained in Abhidhamma. So there is a summary of the 7 books of Abhidhamma. Without studying this Abhidhamma Tha Sangaha first, you are unable to enter into the jewel of Abhidhamma Pitaka. So Abhidhamma Tha Sangaha is written by Acharya Anuruddha. Acharya Anuruddha is not so, his background is not so clear to many people. Therefore, we are not going to discuss about him, but we just want to know Abhidhamma Tha Sangaha is compiled by Acharya Anuruddha. Okay. Then, what is Abhidhamma? Many people are so interested in Abhidhamma. You see, there are so many people registered for this Abhidhamma course. So, what is Abhidhamma? So, according to in the Bhikkhu Bodhi's book, he said that Abhidhamma is simultaneously a philosophy, a psychology, and an ethics, all integrated into the framework of a program for liberation from all suffering. So philosophy, when we talk about philosophy, we know it's a study of the fundamental nature of reality and experience. So Abhidhamma fulfills this philosophy definition. So Abhidhamma study the reality based on experience. And Abhidhamma is also psychology, because Abhidhamma also study the human mind, the nature of human mind and how it functions and how it affects our behavior. This is called psychology. That is definitely precisely what Abhidhamma teaches. And also Abhidhamma is an ethics, because Abhidhamma talk about moral principles, wholesome, unwholesome, and they govern our behavior. Then unwholesome produce unwholesome result, wholesome produce wholesome result. So all these are clearly defined and explained in Abhidhamma. And all of this, to study the nature, to experience the nature of reality, and to study the nature of the mind and how the mind functions and how the mind affects our behavior, all this study is to direct to liberation. It directs the mind to see the truth of suffering, the origin of suffering, and the cessation of suffering, and the path leading to the cessation of suffering, which is Four Noble Truths. Okay, so this is about Abhidhamma. Then let us analyze the meaning, the Pali meaning of Abhidhamma. Okay, Abhidhamma is a combination of 2 words. Abhi means higher, sublime, spatial, and distinguished. When we say higher, it doesn't mean that Abhidhamma is higher than the Sutta. I don't want to say like that, and I never think it's true to say like that. So I prefer use spatial. Abhi is spatial. Dhamma means teaching or ultimate realities. Ultimate realities are fundamental component of actuality. We will see later, as I go on, all this meaning will come clear to you. So to me, Abhidhamma is special Dhamma. I don't want to say higher Dhamma, because when you say higher, it seems that then Sutta is lower. That definitely not correct. Because Abhidhamma is also based on the original Sutta. It's just the style is different. Abhidhamma is it purely talk about ultimate reality, but Sutta using conventional truth to talk about ultimate reality. The style of presentation is completely different. So I prefer Abhidhamma, the definition of Dhamma as special teaching of ultimate realities. And it's a special Dhamma because all Dhamma are fully classified and explained in Abhidhamma, but it's only partially expounded in suttas. Because when Buddha talk about sutta, Buddha consider the level of understanding of the audience, but in Abhidhamma, this never take into consideration. So Abhidhamma fully classify and explain all mental and physical phenomena in very minute details. And the method are also very special. In Abhidhamma, all doctrine is methodically organized. For example, Abhidhamma organized the consciousness into 89 types. And also all Dhamma in Abhidhamma are minutely defined. For example, it defines our body into, rupa, into rupa kalapa. And in rupa kalapa, it's like tiny particle. But in that rupa kalapa, there's also minutely defined as content of 8 elements. So this never appear in sutta. Therefore, it's called spatial. And also, all the physical and mental phenomena are meticulously classified. This classification, a lot of classification in Abhidhamma. You will see later, okay? So, what is Abhidhamma? I would like to call Abhidhamma as special teaching grounded on truth in experiential reality. This is called Abhidhamma. Okay? Now, according to Abhidhamma philosophy, there are 2 types of truth. One is called conventional truth, samuti satcha. One is called ultimate truth, paramattha satcha. So what is conventional truth? Conventional truth refers to ordinary conceptual thought. For example, mountain, tree, house, computer, table. So these are ordinary conceptual thoughts that form in our mind. Or mode of expression. She, he, me, we, human, and so on. So all these are called conventional truth. Although they are commonly accepted truth, house, mountain, no one will debate on it. When you say, I see a house, no one will say you are wrong, right? When you already see a house. So they are commonly accepted truth. But if we examine conventional truth closely, under our concentration, under well-trained concentration and wisdom, then we can penetrate into conventional truth and find that conventional truth do not exist as ultimate realities. Another way, we can say, we can extract ultimate realities from conventional truth, just like we can extract oil from olive. We can extract oil from sesame seed. So let us give one more example. Let's say you see a house. We think that this thing, a house, is a house, is something real, right? When we see a house, I see a house. So the house seems something real. But if we say le, actually, so we say how is something real that actually exists? Yes, they seem to exist, but if we examine closely, we find that they contain 4 elements. If we examine using ultimate truth, then we find a house, a mountain, contains 4 elements. Therefore, you can extract 4 elements out from a house. And 4 elements is ultimate realities, and a house is conventional truth. Okay, give me one more example. Kalapas. So when, for yogis who practice Kayanupassana Satipatthana, or 4 elements meditation, who keep on put his intention on his body again and again, day and day after days, month after months, finally they will see many tiny kalapas in the body. And according to Abhidhamma, this kalapa is not the ultimate truth yet. We can see many different type of kalapa, different color, okay. And yet, there's not ultimate reality. So what's ultimate reality? Okay, ultimate reality are things exist by reason of their own intrinsic nature. What is intrinsic nature? Okay, let's say, just now I mentioned Rupa Kalapa. This one circle, so this one circle, the whole circle is called Rupa Kalapa. It's very tiny particle. Now we cannot see through our naked eyes, but through concentration, the mind well trained in concentration, and when you penetrate into your body, you can see this tiny dust or tiny particle we call Rupa Kalapa in Pali. So this so tiny things in Abhidhamma still conventional truth. And one can extract ultimate truth out of conventional truth. So what is the ultimate truth contained in the Rupa Kalapa that we can extract? There are 8 elements. Earth element, water, fire, wind, color, smell, taste, nutritive essence. So these are these 8 elements are ultimate reality. However, just now I mentioned, ultimate reality are things exist by reason of their own intrinsic nature. So earth element, when you think about earth, when you see the great earth, what comes to your mind? Hardness, right? Or you touch the great earth, you feel very hard. So this hardness is the intrinsic nature of earth element. Earth element itself is not the ultimate truth. But ultimate truth exists by reason of their own intrinsic nature. So when you touch the earth, you feel the hardness. So this hardness is the intrinsic nature of earth element, which is ultimate truth. Similarly, water. The second ultimate truth, water. So when you see water, water itself is not conventional truth. Water itself is not ultimate truth, but the intrinsic nature the water carries is ultimate truth. What is that? So when you see water, immediately it comes to your mind, flowing. Because water is never still, it's always flowing. So flowing is the intrinsic nature of water. So water is ultimate truth, and it carries its intrinsic nature of flowing. This is called ultimate truth. Okay? As I go on, you will know better and better. Okay? So ultimate reality are the final irreducible components of existence. They cannot be analyzed again into more minute detail. No, not possible. They are the final, irreducible, cannot be reduced again, and the component of existence. So just now, all these 8 earth element, water, fire, until the last nutritive action is the final component of existence. Cannot be reduced to something else again. Okay? Let me give one more example. This, when you see this, you know, oh, human beings. So is human being conventional truth or ultimate truth? Now you understand. It's conventional truth. Why? Because you can extract something out of human beings, right? So if we can analyze what compose a human being, then you can reach the ultimate truth. So human being consists of physical and mental phenomena, or another word, mind and matter, or another word, 5 aggregates. Mind and matter and 5 aggregates are the same meaning. So 5 aggregates. Let's say we say 5 aggregates are the ultimate truth you can extract from human beings. Then take one, consciousness aggregate. So consciousness aggregate, what is the intrinsic nature? As I say, all ultimate truth has its intrinsic nature. So what is the intrinsic nature of consciousness aggregate? Knowing an object, aware of an object, is the intrinsic nature of consciousness aggregate. Okay? Now let us come to the fourfold ultimate truth in Abhidhamma. Abhidhamma only talk about ultimate truth. Therefore, it's more boring, right? Because it's very, it's not the things that we are familiar with. We only familiar with conventional truth. We are not familiar with ultimate truth. Okay, but Abhidhamma deals only with ultimate truth. Please bear in mind this point. So in Abhidhamma, ultimate truth or ultimate reality is fourfold. Number 1, consciousness, citta. Number 2, mental factors, cetasikas. Number 3, matter, rupa. Number 4, nibbana. So these are the 4 ultimate truths minutely defined in Abhidhamma. And these 4 are so important, they cover 6 chapters in 9 chapters of Abhidhamma Sankara. In Abhidhamma Sankara, they are all 9 chapters. And these 4 ultimate truths cover the first until the 6th chapter. First up to 6th chapter. I talk about this fourfold ultimate truth. So consciousness, mental factors, and matter. These 3 consist of human being. Right? A human being is made up or composed by these 3: consciousness, mental factors, and matter. So, and these 3, we say human beings is just a conventional truth, but Abhidhamma talk about ultimate truth. And these 3 are conditioned Dhamma. What is conditioned Dhamma? Conditioned Dhamma, Sankata. Dhamma. Conditioned Dhamma is the momentary mental and physical phenomena that constitute the process of experience. So, as I say, Abhidhamma is grounded in truth and experiential reality. So to experience this reality, you need consciousness, you need mental factors, and you need object, rupa as object, or rupa as object for investigation and so on. So conditioned Dhamma is the momentary mental and physical phenomena that constitute the process of experience. And they are impermanent, they are marked with impermanent arising and passing away because they are produced by causes. All conditioned Dhamma are produced by causes, and the causes are necessary anicca, impermanent. So all consciousness, mental factors, and matter are all impermanent phenomena. And this is very different from Nibbana. Nibbana is called unconditioned Dhamma. We call asankhata Dhamma. Asankhata Dhamma are not produced by any causes. Since it is not produced by any causes, therefore it is permanent. And it is sukha, but anatta, non-self. Conditioned Dhamma produced by cause. Whatever produced by causes are impermanent. Why? Because the causes themselves are impermanent. How can be the effect be permanent, right? So all conditioned Dhamma are impermanent, anicca, suffering, dukkha, non-self, anatta. But Nibbana, which has no mind and matter, is unconditioned Dhamma. They do not produce by causes, therefore they are permanent, happiness and non-self. Okay? So the first ultimate truth. The first ultimate, now we are going, so there are 4 ultimate truths you have to bear in mind. Very important one. Consciousness, mental factors, rupa, and nibbana. Now we are going to start the chapter 1. The first ultimate truth, consciousness. We call citta. Citta. It's important to know the Pali name as well. Citta. So what is this? Why citta become the first chapter? When you open the Abhidhamma, the first chapter, citta. The study of citta is taken up first because the focus of Abhidhamma is on the experience of reality. As I say already, and citta is the principal element of experience. All our experience come from how we experience something. So all our experience come from aware of an object first, right? For example, you taste your food. How you experience this food is sweet, sour, and tasty. First, you must aware the taste, the food touch your tongue. You must aware there's something touch your tongue first. And then you know tasting, we call tasting consciousness. Therefore, to experience something, you need what? You need consciousness. And the intrinsic nature of consciousness is just aware of an object. So consciousness experience the object through knowing of an object first. Without knowing an object, you cannot experience anything. So when sounds impinge the ear, so ear consciousness hear the sound. Only then you can analyze this, what type of sound, is it animal sound, human sound, and so on. So without this hearing consciousness, without consciousness to aware of the sound first, there's no experience. Nothing can be experienced, right? Therefore, the study of Citta is taken up first because the focus of Abhidhamma is on the experience of reality. And Citta is the principal element of experience. It's very important to understand this point. Okay. Next. Citta is defined according to commentator, Pali commentator. Citta is defined as an agent that knows the object. However, this agent is without a permanent entity. When we talk about agent, it's like somebody, you and she know the object, right? Therefore, I want to stress that this agent without a permanent being or entity. Sometimes we wrongly grasp Citta as I or myself. For example, when visible object, when they say a visible object impinge our eye sensitivity, a visible object come into the eye. Instead of eye consciousness arises and sees the object, we say I see. When sound come into the ear, instead of ear consciousness arises hearing the sound, we say I hear. Therefore, we not seeing, not investigating ultimate reality, that is consciousness knows aware of an object, we wrongly identify that hearing, seeing, tasting, touching, thinking as I, entity, permanent entity, I, he, she. This is how we end in suffering because not seeing things correctly. Okay? So it's the consciousness, hear the sound. It's the consciousness sees the visible object. It's the consciousness touching the tangible. It's the consciousness that thinks, not I that thinks. Okay? So, therefore, a better definition for consciousness is an activity or process of cognizing an object. Instead of saying agent that knows the object, the more accurately, consciousness, Citta, is defined as an activity or the act and process of cognizing an object. So when we say about process of cognizing, then when we talk about process, then it contains a series of steps, not only one, right? Otherwise, we wouldn't say process. So let me give you an example, okay? Let's say when a thought, when let's say we experience our wandering thought very often in life, right? So first, how you aware, how you know this wandering thought? By aware of it, right? By aware of it. So consciousness aware of the wandering thoughts. So how the consciousness aware of the wandering thought? One mind, one consciousness cannot do the task. One consciousness just aware of the wandering thought is not possible in Abhidhamma. It must involve a series of consciousness. We call a series of citta. Let's say here, the first one, here. Let's say one here circle is one consciousness. The second circle, third circle, fourth circle, fifth circle. So this one after another. This first consciousness arise, pass away. Then followed by another consciousness arise, pass away. Then third consciousness arise, pass away. Then fourth, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, until the last one, RG, registration consciousness. When this gone, pass away, only this whole process is called the process of cognizing an object. So what is consciousness? Consciousness is defined as activity, and activity or the process of cognizing an object. Therefore, this process of cognizing an object must contain many consciousness, not only one. Okay, I need to let you know, when I first explain any concept or any definition of Abhidhamma, it may not come clear to you. But as I go on, explain it again and again, it becomes clearer and clearer, because I will repeat the same thing again and again as time goes on. So don't worry if you cannot follow me. And all this called cognitive process are necessarily marked by impermanence, right? Because only first consciousness arise, cease, then the second will arise. So they are necessarily marked with impermanence, arising and ceasing. Okay, so to make clear the nature of ultimate truth, the Pali commentator proposed four defining devices, by means of which the consciousness can be delimited. First, there are four. First is characteristic, lakkhana. Second is function, rasa. Third is manifestation, paccupatthana. Number fourth is proximate cause. So commentator use these four defining devices to make clear the ultimate, to make clear every ultimate truth. So what is the characteristic of consciousness? Characteristic is intrinsic nature, something like that. So characteristic of consciousness is awareness or knowing of an object. This is very important. You have to bear in mind this throughout the class. So if I say what's the characteristic of consciousness, that is aware of an object or know an object. Okay. The second function, what's the function? The meaning of function means how it performs its task. How consciousness performs its task. Mean function. To be a forerunner of the mental factors. This I will explain when I reach mental factors. Number third, manifestation, paccupatthana. How the manifestation means the way it presents itself within experience. So how you experience consciousness, how the consciousness presents itself in your experience. It is a continuity of processes, not an entity. This is correct seeing. But if you experience consciousness as myself, as an agent, as an entity, then you are not seeing things correctly. Okay, you are seeing things through conventional truth. Or your wisdom is blocked. Your wisdom is hindered by ignorance. Okay. The next one, proximate cause. Proximate cause, padatthana. So depend on what the consciousness arises. Mean proximate cause. Depend on mind and matter. So this also I will explain as time goes on. Okay, so we have finished the four defining devices of consciousness. Now we want to explain a little bit more about consciousness. So in the blink of an eye, billions of consciousness arise and pass away. So suppose you blink your eyes, you will never think billion of consciousness already arise and gone. So how speedy is the consciousness? However, at any one moment, only one consciousness arises. One moment cannot have two consciousness. This is also a very important point in Abhidhamma. But one moment, one consciousness, however, consciousness is arise one after another. Although citta arises at tremendous speed, 1,000 millions, one you blink your eye, million, thousand consciousness arise and pass away. Each consciousness moment goes through the same three stages: arising, we call birth; static, decay; and dissolution, death. Okay, so let's say this circle. This circle is called one mind moment of consciousness. We call consciousness moment or mind moment. Consciousness moment is more accurate. So we say consciousness moment, this one citta. So one time, only this one consciousness moment can arise, no two. Okay, but each consciousness moment can be divided into arising, go through three stages: arising, static, and dissolution. Okay, so this one consciousness moment, if we identify citta as myself, let's say consciousness as myself, then we last only for one conscious moment. Our life only lasts for one conscious moment, right? And this citta also can go through birth, arising, decay, static, and dissolution, death. It means that if we identify consciousness moment as myself, we are dying every moment. One moment after another, we are dying and reborn again, dying and reborn again. Therefore, citta is not self. Citta is not yourself, it's not myself, not herself. Hope this can become clear to you. And however, so citta, you see, citta arising, for citta, arising moment is the strongest one. Please remember this also. Okay, next. Now we come to classification of citta. This is also very important. Okay, so citta can be classified by way of planes. The second, by way of nature. When we talk about by way of plane, it's something related to the plane of existence, 31 plane of existence. By nature is like good or bad. His nature is good, his nature is bad, and so on. So let us go into detail about this. So when we say citta can be divided by way of plane, then there are 4 planes of consciousness. Number 1 is sense sphere consciousness, kama, vachara, citta. 5 material sphere consciousness, rupa, vachara, citta. Immaterial sphere consciousness, arupa, vachara, citta. Supramundane consciousness, lokutara, citta. Avachara, kama, vachara, the Pali word. I need to mention the Pali word because it precisely bring out the meaning. Kama means sensual pleasures. Avachara means move on, move about, frequently move on. So the consciousness, citta means consciousness. The consciousness frequently move on the sensual plane is called sense sphere consciousness. So since it's sense pleasures, sense sphere is related with sensual pleasures. Therefore, sense sphere consciousness is much related with craving. And the consciousness very much supported by craving. Okay. So to explain and find material sphere consciousness, rupa vachara. Rupa vachara means this type of consciousness is related with jhana only. Immaterial sphere consciousness, this type of consciousness is connected with immaterial jhana. Okay. Then supramundane consciousness is out of the 31 plane. So to make this clear, I want to explain 31 plane of existence. So this pyramid is called 31 planes of existence. From the below, first hell being up to an animal realm, beta realm, asura realm, 1 human realms, and 6 deva realms. This 11 realms. We call 11 sense sphere planes. Then the sense sphere consciousness, just now we mentioned, the sense sphere consciousness are the consciousness that move on this 11 sense sphere planes. Move on human being realm, on animal realm, on Deva realm, and so on. Okay, but I want to tell you realm, how to call, the plane of existence and the sense sphere consciousness are two different things. Plane of existence are the places where the human being or animals born and die. But sense sphere consciousness are the consciousness that move on this 11 sense sphere plane. So there are two different things. Therefore, when I talk about this, it requires some, knowledge of Dhamma. Otherwise, Abhidhamma will appear very complicated to you, right? Because there are a lot of terms which you've never heard before. Okay. So what is sense sphere consciousness? Sense sphere consciousness are the consciousness that move on these 11 sense sphere planes. Okay, the next one. So above the sense sphere planes, there are 16 fine material sphere planes, like plane of first jhana, second jhana, third jhana, fourth jhana. So the consciousness, fine material consciousness are the consciousness that move on this 16 fine material sphere planes. Frequently move on here because the being who stay here always stay in a jhana. Therefore, their mind are occupied with fine material sphere consciousness, means jhana consciousness. Then the next one, for immaterial sphere planes. Above the jhana, rupa jhana, material jhana planes, there are immaterial sphere planes. So there are 4, infinite space, infinite consciousness, nothingness, and neither perception nor non-perception. So these are the arupa jhana. Those who have arupa jhana can come to this place. So immaterial sphere consciousness are the consciousness that move on in these 4 immaterial sphere planes. I hope you can understand. If you don't understand, as time goes on, you will get clearer and clearer. Don't worry about that, okay? So let us repeat again. So there are 4 planes of consciousness. Sense sphere consciousness. Fine material sphere consciousness is jhana consciousness. Immaterial sphere consciousness is immaterial jhana consciousness. Supramundane consciousness is the consciousness that go beyond this 31 plane and take nibbana as object. Okay, we will explain in detail again. So we come to another classification. So therefore, all the Dhamma are classified very clearly in Abhidhamma. Just now we talked about consciousness can be divided according to planes. Now, consciousness, another classification is consciousness can be classified with respect to its nature in 4 ways. One is called unwholesome akusala. Why is called akusala unwholesome? Because it's mentally unhealthy, morally blameworthy, and leads to one's own affliction, or the affliction of others, or the affliction of both, and productive of painful result in the present life as well as life after. Therefore, this type of consciousness is called akusala citta. unwholesome consciousness. This one. Second, wholesome consciousness, kusala consciousness. Sorry, what is unwholesome consciousness, akusala consciousness in our life? For example, killing, stealing, telling, gossiping, sensual misconduct, all this action lead by akusala chitta and productive of painful result. Then the second one is wholesome kusala. Kusala means wholesome because it's productive, good result. It's mentally healthy, morally praiseworthy, and leads to one's own welfare and productive of good result in this life as well as present life after. Therefore, it's called kusala. So what are the kusala consciousness in our daily life? For example, now you are listening to this Abhidhamma, your mind is called kusala chitta, wholesome consciousness. And when you are doing charity, donation, generosity, and you are keeping the 5 precepts just now, when you are showing respect to the monks and nuns, all these are called kusala consciousness, productive of good result, and bring you happiness. And the resultant, what is resultant? Resultant is the result of unwholesome and wholesome consciousness. So when you talk about resultant consciousness, it itself does not have wholesome and unwholesome, but it is a result of wholesome and unwholesome consciousness. Okay? Then functional. Functional has no wholesome and unwholesome. It's just an activity does not involve wholesome and unwholesome. Neither it is a result of wholesome and unwholesome. It's just an activity. So mostly, Arahant's consciousness is called functional consciousness because Arahant's mind has no wholesome and unwholesome. When we have wholesome and unwholesome, this wholesome and unwholesome will produce result in next life. But Arahant cannot have cut off the root cause for rebirth, which is craving and ignorance. Therefore, it cannot produce result. So Arahant's consciousness is called functional consciousness. Both akusala and kusala constitute karma. Karma. Then the chitta that arises to ripening of this karma is called resultant chitta. Here, vipaka chitta, resultant chitta. Where is my pointer? Here, okay. So here again, wholesome, unwholesome constitute karma, and the chitta that arises through the ripening of the karma is called resultant chitta. Here is called resultant chitta. And this functional is no karma involved. So this resultant chitta and functional chitta are called abhyakata, indeterminate chitta. Indeterminate chitta. Both neither have wholesome or unwholesome. Okay. To understand what is wholesome karma, what is unwholesome karma, we need to know 6 types of roots. One is called 3 wholesome roots: non-greed, non-hatred, and non-delusion. Another one is called 3 unwholesome roots: greed, hatred, and delusion. So these 6 types of root also quite important for you to remember. 3 wholesome root, very easy: non-greed, non-hatred, and non-delusion. And 3 unwholesome roots: greed, hatred, and delusion. And there are also some consciousness has no root one. Why we talk about the roots? Because wholesome and unwholesome are rooted with this roots, either wholesome root or unwholesome roots. But they are also consciousness has no root at all. Then we call rootless consciousness. You see, we have more terms coming in. Therefore, it's not easy to understand Abhidhamma in first class. But after second class, third class, fourth class, fifth class, then everything becomes clearer and clearer because we keep on repeating the same thing. Okay, next one. So we already studied citta. The meaning of citta, the intrinsic nature, the characteristic of citta is aware of an object. And we also understand citta can be classified by way of plane, a sense sphere consciousness, right? 5 material sphere consciousness, immaterial sphere consciousness, and supramundane consciousness. So all this, we have 89 types of citta. Don't be frightened. Don't be frightened with the number. As I go on, things will become very clear to you. So, although citta has single characteristic of aware of an object, but all this citta can be, all this citta have, we have all 89 types of citta. And all these 89 type citta has single characteristic of aware of an object. Okay? So this 4 you have to remember, memorize it for easy understanding. Sense sphere consciousness. Now we come to sense sphere consciousness first. There are 54 sense sphere consciousness. What are the 54? We will go one by one. And first is 12 unwholesome consciousness. 12 unwholesome consciousness. And under the 12 unwholesome consciousness, there are 8 rooted in greed. You may ask, it rooted in greed mean one root of greed? No. It rooted in greed means that this consciousness has greed as predominant factor, but it also has underlying cause of ignorance. Therefore, how many root they have? Greed and ignorance or delusion. So when we say consciousness rooted in greed, means they have 2 roots, delusions and greed. Okay, then second one, rooted in hatred. There are 2 consciousness rooted in hatred. So when we say rooted in hatred, doesn't mean that only one root of hatred. It has 2 roots, hatred and delusion. Because delusion is underlying cause for all unwholesome. Whatever unwholesome consciousness must have delusion. So rooted in greed also have delusion. Rooted in hatred also have delusion as underlying cause. Then one more question. You can ask, can consciousness rooted in greed and hatred together? Then that's not possible. Not possible? Why? Because the nature of greed and hatred is opposing each other. Greed is grasping something, no one to let go. Hatred is rejecting, push away, rejecting something. So this have opposite nature, both have opposite nature. Therefore, they cannot arise in the same consciousness moment. we are talking about consciousness moment, one circle, one moment only. In one consciousness moment, cannot have consciousness rooted in greed as well as hatred. Not possible. Okay. So the third one, consciousness rooted in delusion. There are two types of consciousness rooted in solely delusion. So only one root. Okay. So consciousness can be divided into four by way of plane. One is called sense sphere consciousness. Sense sphere consciousness is related strongly with craving. Therefore, it only moves on in the sense sphere plane. So there are 54. And under 54, there are 12 unwholesome. Unwholesome consciousness can be divided into 12. 8 are rooted in greed, and 2 are rooted in hatred, and 2 are rooted in delusion. And all this consciousness can be done, all these are citta, or consciousness only, not yet body, okay? But all the unwholesome, action we perform are being directed by all this unwholesome citta, whether it's rooted in greed, hatred, or delusion. Okay, next. Let us see, I have to go through this one before I can stop. Okay, there are 12 unwholesome consciousness, 8 rooted in greed. Let us see this content. Number 1. One consciousness accompanied by joy associated with wrong view unprompted. Okay, so there are 3 important things for you to know here. One is accompanied by joy. Another one is associated with wrong view and unprompted. These are the special things that make all the 8 consciousness rooted in greed. Okay, let me give you an example. One consciousness accompanied by joy associated with wrong view unprompted. Suppose a boy go to the fruit store and very happily he steal an apple, not knowing stealing is wrong action. And unprompted means spontaneously. Okay, so a boy spontaneously steal an apple from the fruit store with joy, not knowing it is unwholesome. Okay, so if such thing happen in a boy, then his consciousness is one consciousness accompanied by joy, associated with wrong view, unprompted. Unprompted means spontaneously. Nobody urged him to do that. Okay? Okay, let us see the second one. One consciousness accompanied by joy, associated with wrong view, prompted. So the difference from first one and second one is unprompted and prompted. So prompted means that a boy being urged by his friend go to fruit store, steal an apple with joy, not knowing it is unwholesome. That's why with wrong view. With wrong view means he does not understand karma, cause and effect, karma and resultant. Bad karma beget bad karma. Bad karma begets bad result. Good karma begets good result. He does not have this knowledge of the law of karma. That's why associated with wrong view. But this time he was persuaded by his friend, therefore is prompted. Okay, so the difference from the second one to first one is called prompted. Then the third one. One consciousness accompanied by joy dissociated from wrong view unprompted. So the third one, the difference is dissociated from wrong view here. The first and second are associated with wrong view. The third one is dissociated from wrong view. Similarly, a boy spontaneously go to a fruit store and steal an apple with joy. He understand the law of karma. He understand it is a wrong action, but he cannot refrain his craving. So although sometimes we also understand the law of karma, still we indulge in sensual craving, right? In this case, is dissociated from wrong view. So he still, because stealing itself is unwholesome, it's rooted in greed, and he do it spontaneously, therefore unprompted, although he understands it is bad action. Therefore, it's called dissociated from wrong view. Okay. Number 4, one consciousness accompanied by joy, dissociated from wrong view, prompted. The difference is prompted here. So this person, this boy, being persuaded, urged by his friend, by his bad friend, and steal an apple with joy, although he understands it is a wrong action. Okay, now we come to the 5th. One consciousness accompanied by equanimity, associated with wrong view, unprompted. So the 5th, same as the first one. The difference is the feeling. The difference is feeling. The first one is here accompanied by joy. This is called pleasant feeling. Number 5th one, accompanied by equanimity. This is neutral feeling. So a boy spontaneously, unprompted, spontaneously steal an apple with equanimity, not knowing it is a wrong action. So when under this condition, his mental stream, his mind is one consciousness accompanied by equanimity, associated with wrong view, unprompted. Okay. Number 6, one consciousness accompanied by equanimity, associated with wrong view, prompted. And the difference is unprompted and prompted. So the difference is unprompted. So unprompted now is prompted, being persuaded by others. Prompted, unprompted means spontaneously. Prompted means after due consideration, either on your own or persuaded by others. Okay. Number 7, one consciousness accompanied by equanimity, dissociated from wrong view, unprompted. Here, the difference is dissociated from wrong view. Dissociated, he knows stealing is not good, but still he cannot refrain from his craving. He still, he did a bad action. It's called dissociated from wrong view. And number 8, one consciousness accompanied by equanimity is dissociated from wrong view, prompted. Similarly, this person, this boy, steal an apple with equanimity feeling, not with joy. And dissociated, he knows he's dissociated from wrong view. He knows it is a bad action. And being persuaded, prompted, being persuaded by his friend, or after his due consideration. After certain consideration, he still steal an apple. Okay, so these are the 8 consciousness rooted in greed. And you can see the consciousness rooted in greed has 2 types of feeling, either accompanied by joy or accompanied by equanimity. Never accompanied by displeasure. Why? Because displeasure is accompanied by hatred. Craving is always accompanied by happy feeling. For example, you watch TV, watch movie, you always accompanied by joy or equanimous. Okay, or you enjoy your food with craving is accompanied by joy, and so on. Okay, so whatever consciousness rooted in greed is only accompanied by feeling of joy, either feeling of joy or feeling of equanimity. Okay, now we go to the consciousness, and please remember when I say consciousness rooted in greed, also rooted in delusion. So two roots. Now we come to the next one. And two consciousness rooted in hatred. When I say hatred, also accompanied with delusion. So one consciousness, there are two consciousness rooted in hatred. Number one consciousness accompanied by displeasure, associated with aversion, unprompted. So here you can see the difference. Here is feeling is displeasure, not a joy, not the equanimous. Displeasure, somanasa. Domanasa, sahagata. Then since it's a consciousness rooted in hatred, it is accompanied with aversion, not with craving, with aversion, and first unprompted. So, for example, you see your enemy come to you. Then you feel very unpleasant. Your mind start to get angry. Then you spontaneously scolded him. And under this condition is one consciousness accompanied by displeasure, associated with aversion, unprompted, spontaneously. And the second one is very easy, different. The difference is prompted. The rest are the same. The difference is prompted. So same thing, when you see an enemy coming to you, you feel very unpleasant, displeasure. Now your mind gets angry, but you don't have the intention to scold him. However, your friend beside you keep on urge you to take action, to scold him. Then you scolded this enemy. It's called prompted. Okay. Okay, so there's two, easy to remember. Then next, two consciousness and two unwholesome consciousness rooted in delusion. Here only one root, only one root. No hatred, no greed, only delusion or ignorance. So one consciousness accompanied by equanimity, associated with doubt. So here, whatever consciousness rooted in delusion is only accompanied by equanimity, no joy and no aversion, no displeasure, only equanimity, only one feeling, because at that time, the mind associated with doubt, so you don't have joy, neither displeasure, just equanimous, because you cannot make any decision, doubtful consciousness. For example, sometimes you may doubt the efficacy, the efficiency of the Noble Eightfold Path leading to the cessation of suffering. So when you doubt about this, then the consciousness arise in you is one consciousness accompanied by equanimity associated with doubt. And this is unwholesome, unwholesome consciousness rooted in delusion. The second one consciousness accompanied by equanimity associated with restlessness. So the feeling here is also equanimity, but here with restlessness. Therefore, when this is very common consciousness that arises in our daily life, because our mind is always restless. If we do not anchor our mind on one subject, on one object, they say anapanasati, mindfulness of breathing. If we do not keep our attention on one meditation subject, our mind is always restless. When you walk here and there, when you go washroom, when you washing your face, eating, and so on, usually it's one consciousness accompanied by equanimity associated with restlessness that occupy your mind, that arise in your mind. Okay, so now among all the 12 unwholesome consciousness, Chitta rooted in restlessness, one consciousness accompanied by equanimity associated with restlessness, is the weakest one, very weak. However, it arises very often in our daily life. The rest of Chitta, exclude the one associated with restlessness. The rest of Chitta from 1 to 11 all can bring us to the 4 rebirth in the 4 woeful states, depend on how heavy is the karma. But the last one consciousness accompanied by equanimity associated with restless, this is very weak because it arises very often. It's only just in the mind. So it cannot lead us to the rebirth in the 4 woeful states. So now we have finished 12 unwholesome consciousness, 8 rooted in greed, 2 rooted in aversion, and 2 rooted in delusion. Now a question for you. Why we want to learn Abhidhamma? Because it is strongly, Abhidhamma, the knowledge of Abhidhamma is strongly related in our daily life. So now how can we put this 12 unwholesome consciousness in our daily life? So we can check our life, our daily life, how often unwholesome consciousness arises in our daily life. So this is the, I think this is the lesson you have to, this is the lesson you have to do and check in your daily life. Let us discuss a little bit. Suppose when we first wake up in the morning, when we first wake up early in the morning, what is the consciousness in your mind? What is the consciousness in your mind? Because this is online, so I cannot ask you to answer. But now let you think. When you wake up from your bed, what is the first consciousness in your mind? I guess among the 12 unwholesome consciousness, I guess is the first consciousness rooted in restlessness. Right? First get up, mind not clear, mind restless. I don't think people will get up. The first moment he get up, his mind is focused on his breath, unless he's good meditator. Okay, so first consciousness is consciousness rooted in delusion, in restlessness. And sometimes, when time alarm sounds already, you feel so lazy to wake up. Then, when you feel so lazy to wake up, what is the consciousness that arises in your mind? Is the consciousness rooted in greed. So among the 8 consciousness rooted in greed, which one do you think is the one you have when you are unwilling to wake up, when the alarm sounds? I guess it's the first one. One consciousness accompanied by joy associated with wrong view unprompted. Because you cling to the comfort of the bed, so you accompanied by joy. Then you may forget this laziness is an unwholesome action and unprompted. You spontaneously, willingly want to stay on bed longer. Okay? Okay, so then what else? After you wake up, finally, you have to wake up. Then you take your breakfast, or you're brushing your teeth. When you're brushing your teeth, do you focus the mind on your body, or you let loose your mind and wander here and there? So if you wander here and there, let loose your mind, wander here and there, then the mind is one consciousness accompanied by equanimity associated with restless. Right? Okay, then what else? Then you may see yourself in the mirror. When you see yourself in the mirror, do you attach to the self, to yourself? Do you think that yourself is real in the mirror? Most of us think, no? The reflection of self in the mirror is the real one. And you attach to that one, attach it to the self. So when this happens, what type of consciousness that arises in your mind? I guess is also one consciousness associated with joy. Also can be associated, can be number 5. One consciousness accompanied by equanimity, because every day you see already, you become equanimous. Associated with wrong view. You do know attached to self is unwholesome and unprompted. Nobody asks you to attach yourself. You yourself attached to that. So it can be number 1, if your feeling is accompanied by joy, or it can be number 5, if your feeling is accompanied by equanimity. Okay? Then what else? Then when for example, when a woman, when he see her image in the mirror, and he start to see his white hair, wrinkle on the face, then he feel how does he feel? How do you feel? I guess it's this one. One consciousness rooted in hatred. One consciousness accompanied by displeasure. I don't like white hair. I don't like wrinkle on my face. I don't like to get old. So at that moment, one consciousness accompanied by displeasure, associated with aversion, unprompted, arise in your mind. And how long it arise? Until you change your mind. And it will arise again and again, unless another thought arises and you change your mind. Okay? And next one, what else? After that, now you get yourself ready to go and work. And so when you drive the car, sometimes you get late. Then you drive the car and you meet with traffic jam. Already late, some more heavy traffic, and you become so impatient in the car. At that moment, what happened in your mind? What type of consciousness that arises in your mind? I guess it's this consciousness rooted in hatred as well. One consciousness accompanied by displeasure, associated with aversion, unprompted. Again, unwholesome consciousness arises in you, in us. Okay. Then after that, I guess just now when you become so impatient and your mind become restless also, because you worry, being late. So your mind become restless. So after the mind get angry, then another mind will take over. There's a consciousness rooted in delusion. There's the second one consciousness accompanied by equanimity, associated with restless. Okay, after that in the office, sometimes you have some disagreement with your colleague, or sometimes you get scolded by your boss. And what type of a reaction, what type of the consciousness that arises in your mind? Still, it can be consciousness rooted in hatred. One consciousness accompanied by displeasure associated with aversion. But sometimes when you go for tea time, our break, lunch break, and you go for for lunch with your colleague, and we start to gossip, talking something, tell something bad of other people, speaking ill of other people, then, or you gossip. They say you gossip, you enjoy in gossiping. So at that moment, what type of consciousness that arises in your mind? I guess it's the consciousness rooted. I'm sure it's consciousness rooted in greed. So it can be number one consciousness accompanied by joy because you enjoy in gossiping, associated with wrong view. You don't understand it's unwholesome act and unprompted. But if you do not involve in gossiping, but your friend keep on telling again and again, and you are urged to take part, then it becomes a consciousness number two. One consciousness accompanied by joy, associated with wrong view, prompted. This time become prompted by a friend. Okay, it can, but sometimes it can be your emotion can change, your feeling can change. From joy change to equanimity. And you also understand it's wrong action, but you cannot refrain because it being, persuaded, being urged by your friend, so you cannot refrain from it, although you know it's unwholesome. Then it becomes the consciousness of number 8, one consciousness accompanied by equanimity, dissociated from wrong view, prompted. In this case, you know it's unwholesome, but you cannot refrain from it. So, and you do it with equanimity feeling and being prompted by a friend. So from all this example, they happen in daily life, we will see, so often unwholesome consciousness arise in our daily life. If we are not mindful, if we don't understand the Dhamma, if we don't understand what is right, what is wrong, if we don't have self-control, then most of the time our mind are occupied with unwholesome consciousness, either rooted in greed or hatred or delusion.